few times people have asked us why we're adopting internationally when there's so many kids here in the U.S. that need to be adopted as well. So I want to take a second to respond to that question. We did adopt domestically. We have 3 children. We adopted domestically through foster care. We were licensed foster parents in Mississippi, fostered a few other kids. And just to respond to that question, to be honest, without being offensive, it's a little corny or a little ignorant, maybe. Not trying to offend anybody who's asked the question, but one of the things that I just think about is, every child has value, has meaning. Every child deserves a family. So I think it's a little bit strange to say, why would you adopt this child over that child? I don't think there's a particular reason that we select a child over another child, other than, are we the best fit family for that child, or is that child a good fit for our family, or will we mesh? Will we be beneficial to the child? Will we help that child? I think any other question is not warranted. But just to respond to some logistical things, we did adopt 3 children domestically, and we originally had intended to adopt another child domestically. We were going to sign up. We were actually in classes to be licensed again as foster parents in Alabama, but in our state, there was a strong push for more kinship adoptions, and particularly in our county. That's not to say that it's impossible or that it can't be done, but for the situation what we were looking for just wasn't very probable with that. So we started looking at alternative options outside of foster care. Adopting through foster care, you're looking pretty much at all private adoptions. You're looking at agencies, domestic and internationally. When you start weighing the cost, there's really not a huge difference in private adoption costs versus domestically to internationally. Most of your cost, even the cost that you're paying additionally, you're paying that because you're traveling to another country. Which for someone who likes to travel, that's not always a bad thing. But you're looking at a difference of about $10,000, which in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot when you're comparing, $37,000 versus $47,000 for an adoption. And then 2, you have to take into other factors. We want to adopt because we want to be a family to a child that needs a family. And when you look at the system in the U.S. compared to other systems, yes, we do need a lot of work. We need a lot of help in the U.S. We need more Christian families to sign up to do foster care. We need more structures in place to make sure that foster families and foster houses, the resource homes, are equipped and capable of dealing adequately and effectively with the needs of the children that are in their care. But at the same time, we have adopted a format here in the U.S. that is, with the foster care format, which basically provides more of a family atmosphere. We don't do, sorry, somebody was coming in my lane. We don't do really institutional care very often here in the U.S. Most of our children are in resource homes, resource families, and they, some of them may go to a shelter for a time, and it is true that children get shifted from one home to the next, but that's not their fault, nor is it really the fault of the actual system. Generally, it's the fault of the families and people who sign up to be foster parents and aren't very capable or equipped to deal with some of the behavioral issues or the results of trauma, the results of developmental trauma, and the issues that these kids face. And so they sign up because it sounds like a nice thing to do, but they don't put forth a lot of effort in equipping themselves to take care of these kids, and they move around a lot. So that's a whole nother thing to discuss. But outside of that, children here typically are in a family environment, even if there's not a permanency in place for adoption. Versus in other countries, foster care systems aren't very common. It's actually just now beginning to kind of take foot in some places, but it's not very common. So you've got children that are growing up in institutionalized care in other countries. Not to mention in the U.S., we are a lot more accepting culturally of adopting children. Here, it's a lot more accepted for a family to adopt a child. In fact, it's even applauded. Most people say, oh, you're so special for adopting. That's so great that you're doing that. Versus in other countries, culturally, it's not as accepted. Generally, it's looked down upon. People, they don't want to be involved. It's just not a commonplace. So you've got two things that happen. One, children who are in institutionalized care versus family settings. And then you've also got a culture that predominantly is against or opposed to adoption versus in the U.S. a culture that is predominantly pro-adoption, even though it doesn't happen as much as we'd like it to happen. So you have children in other countries that are really, comparatively speaking, a lot of times more in need for an adoptive family than children in the U.S. That's not at all to discredit or discount the need of the children here in the U.S. They need families, and I think people should look to adopt domestically, possibly before internationally, but just because we have a duty to our communities. But outside of that, I think that the question of which one to go for because of expenses is a little bit ignorant, given the situation that a lot of kids are in. For us, we are a family that's bilingual. We speak Spanish. We've lived in South America, so culturally, we are versed in the culture. We are in a position to where we can offer a good environment to a child that needs consistency, stability, and not to feel so much like an outsider. So God has led us down this path to adopt internationally. We are adopting a child from Colombia. I think anyone should consider adopting. I think that we owe it to the grace that we've been given in Christ to do our part in addressing the orphan crisis in the U.S. I'm pretty sure last I checked, we were over 150 something million orphans worldwide. Kids need families, and I think sometimes we are too focused on maintaining our comforts. That we don't consider the things that Lord may be calling us to do. If anybody has any questions about adoption, you've been considering it, you would like to, but you just feel totally unprepared, totally ill-equipped, there's no perfect family. There's great resources to equip and prepare, great resources to fund. We're in this together. It's a community thing. So long video, but just wanted to put that out there, answer some questions. Feel free to put any questions you have about it below, and respond to me. Let me know what anything else you might like to know about adoption internationally, domestically, caring for kids with trauma, developmental issues, what kind of baggage is going to come, what kind of things can happen, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful. Love you guys. God bless.